A few months after Cornelia's attack, Thor's mother Frigga watches his son spar. Odin approaches his wife and she expresses her concern for Thor's future since he almost lost his life. Odin shares her fears, but assures her that Thor was impacted with that experience. Frigga hopes that his son may learn a few lessons in love, and Odin points out how Thor has been smitten by Sif since they were children. In the training grounds, Sif shows off her fighting skills, and after easily disposing of her opponent, she challenges Thor for a match, which she wins with ease. As all the other boys cheer, Thor offers her help to stand up, but she grudgingly refuses, not wanting any of his pity. From afar, Loki watches Sif and Thor, rejoicing in her defeat, but is immediately catched by surprise by the appearance of Amora, a fellow sorceress. Since both share hatred for Sif, she requests his help in breaking Thor's interest in Sif, so that Amora could gain Thor's favor, which Loki accepts. Meanwhile, Thor sits with Sif and asks her what was the reason for her attitude before. She expresses how difficult it is to be the only girl in a warrior school, and how she will never date another boy because they're all afraid of her. Thor jokes with her how none other girl has the undivided attention of the Prince of Asgard, and they almost kiss. Only to be interrupted by Amora. Amora taunts and insults Sif, and Sif retaliates with a smack to her face. Thor jumps up between them and tries to reason with Sif, but unjustly, she lashes out at him for siding with Amora. The next day, as Sif enters her first lesson of the day, she is surprised by meeting a new student in her class, the maiden Brunhilde. A day later, Sif arrives at her class where Brunhilde is questioning Thor on why he is not worthy of an enchanted weapon, since Balder has one of his own, and Thor being Odin's son and all. Sif interrupts the conversation, not tolerating such disrespect to Thor. Brunhilde taunts Sif and Sif punches her, starting a fight between them until they're separated by a teacher. The boys around them all side with Brunhilde, telling the teacher that it was Sif who struck her first. The teacher asks Thor if this is the truth, which he reluctantly confirms, and the teacher sends the maiden separately to wash up. On her way, Sif is confronted by Amora on how Thor is changing his opinion of her because of her brutish ways, and filled with frustration, Sif runs away crying. Concealed, Loki praises Amora for her play and assures her that once he's played his part, Thor will only have eyes for her. Sif sits at a fountain crying as Loki approaches her and tries to empathize with her. Sif asks Loki what he wants, not believing in his pleasantries. Loki finally admits he wants Sif's help in fighting the Mirror of Mika. The Mirror of Mika can only be brought to life by a woman's touch, and once the spell, which Loki has already learned, is cast upon it, whoever looks into it falls instantly in love with the person holding it. Loki explains how Sif can regain Thor's favor with the mirror, and in turn helping him gaining Amora's favor, which is a lie. Sif struggles with the idea, but ultimately decides to help him. Sif successfully finds and retrieves the mirror of Mika, and the next day Loki casts the spell upon it. Sif runs to use it on Thor, but is struck down by Amora with a petrification spell. Amora takes the mirror from Sif and uses it on Thor, while Sif, lying on the ground paralyzed, watches as Thor falls in love with Amora and kisses her. Loki amuses himself, but finally frees Sif. Free from the petrification spell, Sif fiercely charges at Amora, and they fight, only to be stopped by Thor. Under the spell, Thor sides with Amora, to Sif's shock, but the maiden controls herself, not to sully her image in front of Thor any more than necessary, and walks away. Brunhilde, witnessing what happened and grabbing the bag that holds the mirror from the floor, follows Sif. Later, Sif explains to Brunhilde how she was betrayed by Loki. Both maidens reconcile despite their past conflict, and to Sif's surprise, Brunhilde offers her help in thwarting Loki's and Amora's plans, using the mirror's bag to strike a bargain. As a new couple, Thor expresses how Amora is the only woman that means anything to him, but despite the spell, hesitates when asked about Sif. Amora rages at Thor, but is soon distracted with a message from Loki to meet up. Now in Loki's room, Amora confronts him on how they can't return the mirror without its bag. They are immediately interrupted by Sif and Brunhilde with the bag in hand. Sif offers to return the bag if Loki reverses the spell on Thor, but Amora refuses and teams up with Loki for a battle. They start a fight, the maidens with their weapons against the spells of the sorcerers, and as they trade blows, Thor storms in, interrupting the skirmish. Under the spell, Thor sides with Amora again, but Brunhilde interferes with the mirror of Mika in hand. She breaks it, cancelling the spell, and Thor is faced with the truth that both Amora and Sif used trickery to control his emotions. He expected no less from Amora, but to hear this from Sif is a disappointment. A few days later, Sif receives a visit from Frigga, Thor's mother. Frigga assures her that Thor's first kiss with Amora is completely gone from his memory since the spell is broken. Later, Sif meets up with Thor to apologize for what happened. They almost kiss, but friendship among them is stronger, so they make up for any past grudges and move on. Walking the corridors of the Imperial Palace of Asgard, Sif and Balder meet Thor at the trophy room, exerting himself to lift the hammer only a few inches off the ground. Thor's friends celebrate this small feat, but Thor dismisses it as another failure. Balder and Sif comfort Thor and he allows himself a break, but as they discuss their fates, Thor appears to have an epiphany and storms out of the palace, into the stables, gets on his horse Treybold and rides off. Days later, Thor crosses a swamp and is confronted by the mysterious Sisters of Norn, which he came here to find. They tell him that to win the enchanted hammer, he must first face death, but he tells them that he already faced death before. In a flash of light, the sisters disappear, only to leave Thor even more confused. However, Thor accepts his fate, and with determination to conquer Mjolnir, he leaves again for the city. Thor comes home to witness the palace attacked by storm giants. He speeds up to battle, but the giants vanish. Thor learns from Balder that the storm giants took Sif as prisoner and immediately decides to rescue her, but is interrupted by his father Odin, who orders him to stay guarding the palace as Odin raises his troops to go instead. Thor protests this decision, but his father thinks Thor's feelings for Sif may come as a hindrance rather than a help, and Thor uses the same argument to Odin for trying to keep his son out of harm's way without letting him help. Odin commands Thor to stay, not as a father, but as his king. Thor feels that he will never be able to prove his worth this way, but Odin assures him it's what's in one's heart that truly makes one worthy, not one's actions alone. Later, sitting at his father's throne, Thor contemplates his memories of Sif, and decides to disobey his father, going to the trophy room and easily picking up Mjolnir. As Asgardians repair the damage caused by the Storm Giant's attack, Thor crosses the streets with Mjolnir in hand. He gets on his horse Stravold and rides off to Jotunheim. On his way, Thor finds a piece of fabric from Sif clothes and wraps it up on his gauntlets. In Jotunheim, Thor reaches a bridge to the gates of the castle of Ruga, guarded by two giants. Thor uses Mjolnir to destroy the bridge where the guards stand on, cutting his only way to reach the castle. But Thor tries a new trick, and hurling and throwing the hammer holding on its handle, Thor flies across the gap. He uses Mjolnir to destroy the gate, but behind it stands an army of giants which Thor easily disposes of. Now, reaching Ruga at his throne, Thor demands Sif return, only to learn that the king of the storm giants struck a bargain with Hela, goddess of death, delivering Sif to her in exchange for immortality. Thor extracts the location of Hela from Ruga and leaves for the highest peak of Jotunheim, realizing that he's going to face death as the Fates spoke of. Now, standing at Hela's place of power, Thor requests an audience with the goddess of death, and she appears before him, holding Sif in shackles. Thor defies Hela and charges at her with Mjolnir at hand, but she magically blocks his attack. He tries to hurl the hammer at her, and again, she easily stops it in mid-air, throwing it at Thor, hitting him square. Sif protests at the hands of Hela, watching Thor get knocked out by his own weapon. Hela dispels the magical shackles off of Sif and lets her go to her prince. With desperation, Sif holds Thor's unconscious body and tries to wake him up. Hela rejoices in Thor's defeat, and Sif questions her why she so desperately seeks Thor's death. Hela explains that his death is her way to gain revenge against Odin, since claiming one of his son's lives will be a blow too difficult for Odin to recover. Sif tries to attack Hela, only to be immediately stopped. Hela's plan was to let her live, so she could tell Odin the tale of his son's demise. But now, at this defiance, she wants her dead too. But before Hela could kill Sif, Thor stands up and offers himself willingly if she promises to free Sif. Hela is catched by surprise with this offer of sacrifice for the life of another, but accepts the bargain nonetheless. As she prepares to take Thor's life, she stops herself, not wanting to take a life so noble. This sacrifice will do her no good, since it would stir compassion in Odin's heart, and that it's not the effect she wants. Hela then disappears, as she lets Thor and Sif go free, but promises that this won't be the last time their paths will cross. Thor and Sif run into each other's arms and kiss, relieved to be together again. With Sif in his arms, Thor hurls his hammer and they fly away.